Welcome to Keeping It Real, the largest podcast made by real estate agents and for real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I am your guide and host through the show. Today is our monthly series called Unpopular Real Estate Opinions with Chris Linsell. Chris Linsell is a real estate technology analyst. He is also the director of content at large for Luxury Presence. He specializes in new solutions to old questions, consistently exploring the cutting edge of technology in the real estate space. Chris has many years of experience also as a licensed realtor in the state of Michigan, has worked as a marketer, a digital strategist, and a trainer for major national brands like Berkshire Hathaway Home Services of Michigan and Coldwell Banker Schmidt Realtors. Throughout his real estate career, Chris has been part of hundreds of transactions ranging from modest rural starter homes to multi-million dollar waterside compounds. He's an accomplished musician, actor, and speaker. Chris has engaged with audiences ranging in sizes from 30 to 3,000. He speaks regularly at Inman, at the National Association of Realtor conferences, regional and statewide, and even local brokerages. Brokerages all over the country, actually. So follow Chris on links on LinkedIn. He is also a sought-after speaker, so consider having him for either your brokerage, your association, or for any industry event. You might want a forward-thinking speaker to talk about the future of the industry and what agents can do to safeguard their position. Follow him at chrislinsell.com, Linsell.com. Link to that in the show notes, along with his LinkedIn profile and Instagram. Chris, welcome back to the show.
DJ, great to be here. Excited to chat. How you been?
Before we jump in, I'm going to interrupt you. Before we jump in, because I want to announce this before I forget, I wanted to hear about a project you are working on with Luxury Presence related to AI. Let's jump into it.
Yeah. So Luxury Presence has been for a long time making a transition into making everything that we do, everything that we are, based on the DNA of artificial intelligence. This is the next wave of technology, certainly in SaaS and in prop tech and in the real estate industry at large. And even though real estate professionals are often reticent to adopt brand new technologies, I can say with confidence that there is so much amazing opportunity in the residential real estate space powered by artificial intelligence. Luxury Presence recently released our brand new product line, AI Marketing Specialists, these incredible agentic AI assistants. Our whole idea here is that you can grow like a team without hiring a team with Luxury Presence's AI Marketing Specialists. This is an amazing service that we provide to all Luxury Presence clients. And as a part of this, my content team has been working hard and has recently released a amazing ebook that everyone should check out. It's called the AI Discoverability Playbook. It's all about how to make your brand, your content, and your work as a real estate professional visible online to large language models like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini. The list goes on and on. The reality is, if you're not showing up in the search results or in the answers to questions being asked on LLMs like ChatGPT, you're going to have a harder time finding your way into conversations with prospective buyers and sellers. And so in this ebook, which is incredibly comprehensive, it's like 8,000 words long, it goes super deep on all of the strategies that you need to find yourself as the answer to a question being asked on places like ChatGPT. It's available for free on our website. DJ will put the link in the show notes here. The AI Discoverability Playbook available at Luxury Presence. It's everything that you need to show up as the answer to the question, who's the best realtor in my market? Or who's the best real estate agent for condos in fill in the blank? If you want to be the answer there, this is the guy that'll get you started.
Yeah, and I will tell you, I am in the process of looking to move myself. And the first thing I did before going into my local MLS account, which I have access to, of course, and looking with their data, I went into ChatGPT and I said, "Do you happen to know who are the top the agents who have the most market share in this particular neighborhood, and it gave me 5 answers. I don't know if those were the 5 correct answers, but I know it gave me 5 people that I wrote down, and then I can confirm that obviously with our MLS searches. But it was faster to do it with ChatGPT, and so I did. And your clients are probably doing the same. I know that I want to be in the results for when somebody types in what's a good podcast to listen to if I'm a real estate agent. I want that to show up, and I've tested it, and we usually do show up, but not always. So I need to read this as well because I want to make sure this is almost like SEO, search engine optimization for AI, which of course I think is going to take over search. Certainly seems to be the trend. People are going to just be talking to their phones and asking it questions like we do now with ChatGPT, and it's only going to be more and more that way. In fact, I've even noticed in Google now when we do a normal Google search, the first result, at least for me, is a Gemini result, which is their AI. So if that's any indicator of where things are headed, you want to be in those search results, which we used to call those snippets, and that was a thing, and then that kind of went away, and now AI is here to tell us everything we want, and we need to be there. And so great, I love that you are writing about that because I haven't seen anybody write about it in this particular space. So thank you for that. We'll have a link to that in the show notes. Okay, today what is your unpopular real estate opinion for the day?
Okay, I'm ready. Come at me now, everybody. Here's my unpopular opinion. I believe this is the best time in 10 years to be a buyer in the real estate market.
Now, even ChatGPT will disagree with this because ChatGPT, I asked it this earlier today because we were talking about this particular topic, and I was actually asking it a week ago as well, and it said, no, it is a seller's market, at least here in my local market in Chicago. Of course, every market's unique, but tell us why you think it's actually a great time to buy.
Well, okay, so first of all, I want to just point out that the answer that you got from Sam Altman over there at ChatGPT isn't an invalid one, but it is one that uses what I believe to be the wrong factors for decision making, which, by the way, is one of the reasons why you want to keep working, if you're a consumer, with a licensed, experienced, expert real estate professional in your market. Because while the macro answers from places like ChatGPT might make sense academically, theoretically, they don't always take into account the real market specific and even industry specific triggers that would say otherwise. So let me explain to you why I believe it's the best time in 10 years to be a buyer. The high mortgage rates, which have been controversial, provocative, a thorn in the side to real estate professionals, to buyers, even to sellers, and an absolute gift to anyone like me who makes content about real estate, the real estate industry, who wants things to talk about. These high interest rates were a stumbling block, but they aren't anymore. In fact, I would venture to say that these mortgage rates are a feature now of the buyer's market, not a bug. The reason is these high mortgage rates have accidentally kicked off this cascade of market dynamics that have sneakily shifted us into this, what I'm calling now, a hidden buyer's market or a masked buyer's market. And there's stats to back this up. So listen to this. In July of 2025, homes sat longer on the market than they have for the last 10 years. The average days on market for homes in July was 43 days. This is up almost 50% from just 18 months ago. In July last year, over 15% of contracts in the residential real estate space were canceled because of financing, because of inspections, because of appraisal. We all know why contracts don't make it through to closing, but 15%, more than 1 in 8, 1 in 7. Think about that, of contracts are getting canceled. List to sale ratios were historically in the 2020s low in July. We, for the first time in a long time, had a negative list to sale ratio. Things were selling on average for less than what they were listed for. In fact, 20% of listings in the month of June had a price reduction. 20%, 1 in 5. Okay. Now, all of this to say, let me summarize this with one big data point that is kind of hard to believe, but it's true. June in 2025, just 40 days ago, inventories and numbers are in. Inventory year over year nationwide was up almost 29%.
I know. I saw that too, and I was surprised, and I thought, oh boy, that is not the narrative that I have been hearing from agents, sort of in a granular way. But it is absolutely true. Listings are up. Yeah.
And you can see how these mortgage rates have cascaded, who have connected the dots and created some momentum that has summed itself into the stats that I just read out. Now, of course, this isn't the only factor. We live in a multimodal, multidimensional market where there's a lot of contributing factors, but these things are pushing hard on the direction that we're headed. And it's important for us to call a spade here. This has turned what feels like, and according to ChatGPT, is on paper still a seller's market into a masked buyer's market. It is actually the table is set for the best opportunity to get the deal that you want in 2025 if you are a buyer. But it doesn't happen for everybody. There is a needle that needs to be threaded here, but more people can thread this needle than they think they can.
Yeah. So thinking about this from an agent's perspective. So an agent says, okay, that sounds great. Yet, and well, here's one thing that is actually a positive that is real tangible, that interest rates have dropped a bit. So we
Mhm.
are at, I think, the lowest rate of 2025 for 30-year fixed right now, certainly for 15-year. And the rates are pretty reasonable, I think. I think they're more digestible than they were.
Mhm.
And so I think buyers are, it is easier to get them off the fence. I know here in my local market, yes, we have seen an increase in listings, and we've seen an increase in days on market, which is
Mhm.
about the same as the national average. It
Mhm.
was 26 days a couple months ago,
Mhm.
and now it's in the 40s.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, actually, let's talk about that real quick.
Mhm.
Why do you think that homes are staying on the market longer? What do you think is going on there?
Well, I think there's a couple of factors here. The first thing is I think there is still a disconnect in the collective minds of property sellers as to what the market conditions actually are. Most sellers are continually fed, and I'm going to be honest with you. I think real estate professionals, sometimes negatively so, add to this. Most sellers are continually fed this narrative that their property has never been worth more than it's worth right now. You have historic equity here, and there is still this incredible imbalance in the market. So you should be listing your property to the moon in terms of your pricing strategy, and that's just not the reality any longer. So the fact that the sellers have an unrealistic expectation relative to the current market strategy is going to, by default, stretch out the days on market. The other thing that I think is really important to remember here is that if we have 30% more inventory than we did just a year ago, there are, well, 30% more choices
Hmm.
for buyers to consider. So let's just say, for instance, you've got a buyer out there who wants to spend a couple of weekends looking at property, and so you are going to line up showings for them on this Saturday and on the following Saturday. And let's say you had planned on lining up 5 showings on each of those days. Well, now there's inventory to support, instead of 10 total properties to look at, 13 total properties to look at. Buyers have more choice, and the choices that they are seeing are much more aligned to the average home price right now. We are seeing fewer and fewer of these ultra luxury and fewer of these ultra modest starter properties, and much more inventory, at least locally in Michigan and in the Midwest areas where I follow very, very closely. The inventory is much more aligned with what I call civilian buyers rather than these aspirational buyers. And so the typical home buyer just has a lot more choice, which is going to drive them to spend more time making that choice.
Yeah.
Finally, I want to say, because smart buyers agents are recognizing that we are seeing a significant number of price reductions. I mean, what's the number? Over 20%
Mm-hmm.
of properties are experiencing a price reduction in the month of June. If you're a smart agent, you are doing a CMA on any property that your buyers are considering. And that CMA is likely coming up with a delta between where the property was priced and where you believe it should be valued,
Yeah.
which is going to stretch out the negotiation period, increasing the days on market. It's also going to cause buyers to sit tight and say, you know what? I think I could probably even lowball this, because they're going to reduce their price even further to get it in line with something reasonable. That is going to have disruptions in terms of the days on market as well. So there is a lot pointing to that, but it's pretty clear there are a number of factors contributing here.
Yeah. I was thinking psychologically as an owner, if because I get the Zestimate for my particular property every month. I get an
Mm-hmm.
automated email, and I suspect a lot of people have that set up as well, or some version of that, where they're seeing what they think their value is based on another algorithm that is calculating it. And when you see it hit a certain high watermark, or if it just keeps increasing, you don't. I always take that as gospel in my
Mm-hmm.
mind. I'm like, okay, now my place is worth this number that is showing up in this email, which I haven't verified. I just have seen it. I go, oh, it must be true. Um, and yet, when that number starts going down, I'm less likely to trust that same
Mm-hmm.
exact data
Sure,
and
of
that
course.
same number, because it doesn't serve my goal of getting, the highest possible price when I do eventually sell. So it's a completely sort of fallacy in this. It's not even logical for me to think this way, but it's emotionally, it makes a bit of sense, I guess. So we want to see things increase in value. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if there's a little bit of that going on, where we maybe we got a CMA from our agent in the last year or so, because we were telling every agent, everyone who bought a home in the last 5 to 7 years, you need to tell them what their home is worth, because there's more equity, and this is just good news.
Mm-hmm.
They're happy. And so there was a lot of that going on. And now maybe we're seeing a little bit of the tide sort of go back, recede a little bit. And maybe people are still stuck at that high water mark that they thought they were at. They're
Mm-hmm.
emotionally attached to it. We know this happens with for sale by owners. The reason that for sale by owner leads exist is all based upon emotional pricing. The reason why you can buy a list of these and actually convert a certain percentage of them as a real estate agent for people that are actively not wanting to work with an agent is because they're pricing their home too high. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
just that simple.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if there's a bit of that going on, where maybe a seller saw a number at one point and is attached to that number and is hopeful for that number. And now we're seeing, it's also the summer is coming to an end. We are getting toward the end of the busy season. So people are going
Mm-hmm.
back to school. Families are probably shoring up their searches for homes, and less buyers are flooding the market. And at the same time, rates have come down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an opportune time for some buyers to enter. So what would you do if you were an agent right now? How would you take advantage of this?
Mm. Well, I will say, there is, in my opinion, there's no better time to develop and emerge in your market as the most accurate pricer in the entire county or the entire city. You want to be known as the person who can pinpoint the value of a property better than anyone else, because that really is the goose that lays the golden eggs right now, is your ability to effectively understand and communicate effectively to your clients how much a property is worth. So this should be priority number one for real estate professionals, is figure out what it takes to increase the accuracy of your CMAs.
Yeah.
And I will go as far as saying that there are actually two approaches that you should use here. Three, actually. Let's work these in order. The first is you just have to start using the tools at your disposal to look for trends and contributing factors to value that you weren't looking at 36 months ago. This means using, excuse me, using AI tools to examine market data for trends that you wouldn't be able to spot on your own, or that your kind of basic out of the box CMA program provided by your brokerage isn't providing for you either. So what I'm talking about is like uploading your neighborhood or market data to an LLM like ChatGPT, asking for its help to analyze the trends that are contributing to the prices of the sale prices of the properties in the area that you're focusing on, and then comparing the results that you're getting to your results to see if there are any unlocks that are happening as a result of that. So that's the first thing. We have these tools; they're free to use for the most part. You can pay for the premium versions of these chat tools like ChatGPT or Claude, but they have free versions that you can activate as well and get this work done. So that's the first thing you need to do, is sharpen your CMAs. The second thing you need to do is start talking about your CMAs more strategically with your buyers and sellers. Here's the strategy that I use, and this is just, it's so powerful. It would be a waste for other folks not to use this. You have to stop giving your buyers or sellers one number and start giving them a range and you call it your strategic range. So if you're selling your property, you give them three numbers.
Yeah.
The highest number is the conservative end. This is the number that you list at when you are comfortable being on the market for an extended period of time, when you're comfortable having multiple showings, when you're comfortable with an extended negotiation period. This is the conservative number, and who knows, you might get it if you get just the right buyer at just the right time who wants it just in that moment. But more than likely, you're in for a little bit of a fight. The middle number is your neutral number. This is where you feel you are closest to market value and where you're likely to get an offer at 100% of the price, of the asking price. And then you have the aggressive model that is optimized for speed. You want to induce a lot of market activity happening very quickly. It's certainly priced a little bit below what that neutral number is, because you're optimizing for speed in the hopes that it induces a competitive bid scenario and buoys that price back up. You have to stop thinking about value as a single number and more as a strategic range. And what that does for you is it opens up the range that you can be considered accurate, and it positions you as the real estate professional who is the go-to, the goat in your market for accurately pricing property. So those are the first two. Start utilizing the tools that you have at your disposal to unlock hidden trends and make your pricing more accurate. Number two, start talking about your CMAs as a strategic range instead of a single number. You can miss 1,000 different ways if you're doing a single number. You get a ton of room to be accurate when you're providing a strategic range. And then the third tool, and frankly, this is the hardest one to pull off, but you need to get better at telling the story of the value of the property. And if you're listing the property for sale, it means your marketing has to do a better job of demonstrating that value. And if you are representing the buyer in a property, or in the pursuit of a property for sale, you need to do a better job of telling the story of why the market is represented your price, your proposed price better. This has become a market of where real estate professionals as marketers have to be storytellers, maybe in a way that they haven't necessarily in the previous 10 years of this business. This is an opportunity to demonstrate your value as a professional, and right now that the ability to effectively tell your story means a lot. And especially when we have this masked buyers market where there aren't guarantees by any means. I mean, we're seeing it, like days on market are up 50% from where they were a year ago. We have price reductions on a fifth of the properties that are hitting. This is about storytelling right now. So if you are doing these three things, using the advanced tools, implementing a strategic range, and focusing on your storytelling, this will become a place where you are gaining business, not a threat for losing business.
I think the storytelling is such great advice, and it applies, as you said, both to the list agent and the technically the sell agent or representing the buyer. Because if we think about, well, how do you do that on the buy side? And we're not necessarily talking about writing the love letter, right? So there's some problematic practices with doing things like that, and you can check with your local your state rules for if that's allowed, and some states allow it and others don't. What we're talking about, I think, is showing up for your buyer and representing your buyer's motivation and urgency, and how excited you are as the representing the buyer, as the agent, to the list agent. I
Mhm.
actually made a video about this earlier this week, which is on our YouTube channel and I think everywhere. I just made a 10-minute video where I said, here's what top 1% agents are telling me they're doing right now to get their offers noticed and accepted, even when not highest and best. And it comes down to a lot of effort. It is really kind of similar to what you were saying with storytelling. It is about telling that list agent, my client wants this property, they need this property, they're willing to do X, Y, and Z to get it, and then staying on top of that list agent, making sure that they are following up over and over and over again to try to get that deal closed. And it works. And what's interesting is talking to top agents on the list side is they are always impressed, rarely annoyed by aggressive or at least persistent buy side agents.
Mm.
So agents that are professional, that have good lenders, that send things like the offer letter along with a summary, sending the stuff from the mortgage, showing proof of funds, even showing things like that, attaching it to
Mhm.
the offer letter and saying, we're with, and then having the loan officer call the seller's agent and saying, hey, we can get this thing to close real fast. Like, this person's ready to go,
Mhm.
and putting all of those arrows in their quiver, taking them out and firing them, and saying, no, we're the team you want to close with because we can get this done,
Mhm.
is, I think, part of the story selling process.
Totally. Well, and if you consider, remember, that 15% of contracts were canceled
Yeah.
in July 2025. This is a legitimate concern for buyer or for sellers right now, is whether or not a contract will actually be seen through to the closing table. It's interesting. I would say that right now we are in a period of time where it is now uh maybe not necessarily happily welcome from the listing agent, but it isn't unacceptable any longer to submit your CMA along with your offer to be
Hmm.
like, hey, listen,
Justification. Yeah.
I know we're coming in 50 grand below where you have this listed, but listen, here are the comps that I'm looking at. Here's the process that we use to come to this number. We feel like this is a fair representation of value in the market. We can also offer you, like you said, these levels of assurance that this is a good contract that's going to make it to the closing table. Like, this was not um this was unheard of in 2021
Sure.
when people were making, properties were getting 15 offers without a single showing.
Yeah.
You would be laughed out of the digital room if you submitted an offer below ask with your CMA attached to it. Listing agents would just be like, okay, we appreciate this. We have 10 other offers all over ask with 0 inspections, and 5 of them are cash. So you're welcome to submit. I'm happy to fulfill my duties to show my client, but there's not a snowball chance in hell that this is going to get accepted, because why would somebody accept this? Those days are gone, friends. And it's kind of wild to think this, but here's just a little reminder. We are almost at the inventories of pre-COVID real estate right now. Like, this is that we are in there's a market snapshot right now that if you took the dates off of it, um, could be confused with pre-COVID real estate. Some dimensions of it, not all dimensions. And in fact, there are a couple of dimensions that are changing, that are kind of accentuating this masked buyer market phenomenon. One of them are the incentives that we're seeing being tacked onto listings. Um, I'd love to chat a little bit about this. Are you familiar with the kind of the incentive phenomenon that is starting to emerge, especially in the new build space?
No.
So, new construction, they're starting to get a trend where new construction homes are being offered with incentives, things that don't really feel incentive, kind of at first, but the more you dig into them, you realize what's actually going on here. Things like, um, an offer to buy down points on
Yeah.
your mortgage. Things like an offer to upgrade appliances. Things like an offer to allow a certain level of customization on new builds that wasn't a part of the original package. And though these sorts of incentives have existed forever, they have started to become a little bit more aggressive, and we're starting to see them putting pressure on the existing home stock market, such that the incentives that you're getting from new build construction are making their way into listing existing stock. And the place where we see this the most is, frankly, a direct downstream result of the NAR lawsuits, the commission lawsuits, where we are seeing more and more officially the offer of buyer's agent compensation as a part of the listing of the property for sale. That you, with your list price, you get compensation of your buyer's agent, which we all know this was the big debate for a long
Yeah.
time. So we're starting to see these sorts of incentives, and I tell you what, if the incentive of like purchasing down mortgage points as a part of the package starts to become the norm in terms of sellers offering this to buyers, I mean, I think then we take the mask off. Like, this isn't a masked buyer's market
Yeah.
anymore. Even if the numbers are saying otherwise, this is a buyer's market. If sellers are incentivizing their buyers that much to get in the ring.
Yeah, that the buy down idea is an interesting one, and I almost wonder if individual home sellers who are not developers could creatively, if their property isn't getting the attention it deserves for the price they want, they could throw that into the mix and really spice up the game a little bit. That would be a very interesting thing
Mhm.
for a non-developer primary resident owner
Mhm.
to consider doing. I also think too, is this a great time to sell by? Meaning owning a
Mm.
home, wanting to make that move in the next 12 to 24 months, maybe thinking, well, if I wait for rates to come down further, maybe that would spike more buyers hitting the market. Certainly more properties would hit the market, but prices will certainly go up. Maybe it does make sense because my property likely has appreciated, at least over the last 5 to 7 years.
Mhm.
Maybe it makes sense that, yeah, maybe it's not at its high water mark that it was, 3, 4 months ago,
Mhm.
but perhaps it's a great time when less buyers are here. I still sell it at a premium. I have a bit more inventory to choose from when I go to buy. Maybe I start buying before I even consider selling,
Mhm.
and knowing that, if I price correctly and I don't shoot for, a trying to sell over my list price, which we know
Mhm.
is not as effective right now. So
Mhm.
maybe we have a more sort of dialed in pricing strategy for my existing property. And I realize, okay, I look at the data and say, if I have this priced correctly, how quickly do homes go under contract in my
Mhm.
area, which
Mhm.
ChatGPT, if not that, should be able to tell you. If not, export data from your MLS and it can do that, or your MLS probably can do that as well. Um, but knowing that number is really important, because then you can bring that to your homeowner and
Mhm.
say, look, I know right now you might be thinking there's not much inventory. Let's actually show you the inventory in the next area of the town you live in that you want to move to, or the next neighborhood or next suburb. Or here's the next move you're looking to make. There's stuff out there right now. Here's what it's priced at. Here's how quickly we could probably get yours under contract once you find a property. And maybe we can make this happen a little bit more. Again, whether or not they do it is up to them. What I think is this valuable to people? Is this a
Mhm.
value to demonstrate why you're still relevant, why you're still needed as an agent? And I think it is. I think this is, whether or not somebody takes action as a current homeowner, is just, wow, my agent came to me with kind of an interesting idea. And I hadn't thought of that, because of course
Mhm.
they haven't thought about it. Maybe they're looking at inventory right now. Maybe they're looking at what their home's worth, but they aren't necessarily looking about historically, where do things sit in relation to, you know, the current trends. And I think
Mhm.
that's, as you were saying, what is the value of the agent that it can still supersede what they can type into a chat prompt. This is about experience. This is about knowing the best lenders to work with. This
Mhm.
is about having your strategy of, here's how I'm going to work to get you the buy side first.
Mhm.
And here's how I'm going to be super aggressive to help make that happen. And then here's how we're going to be super aggressive to get the home sold at the same time. And I think this is just a fun conversation to have, regardless of the outcome to the
Mhm.
actual current homeowner. For first time home buyers, I think this is an easy win.
Mhm.
What we're talking about is an easy conversation. I think this is actually a great conversation for current homeowners who are
Yeah.
thinking about making a switch.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, uh, you're 100% right that there is massive opportunity um, on a case by case strategic basis. But this is one of those perfect illustrations of why we are not at a place where we can trust something like a chat gpt to give us the level of personalized advice and assistance that we need when making this sort of a decision with this amount of gravity to it, because ultimately the true in my opinion, the true value of working with a real estate professional is their specific market experience and insight relative to my specific needs. I mean,
Yeah.
I am thrilled to get a chance to work with an agent who's the number one condo agent in all of Chicago. But if that person can't apply their expertise to my specific set of needs, then that accolade means nothing to me. And so, to that end, the real golden opportunity here is to uh be able to take that expertise and experience and that reputation that you've developed in your market, um to be able to interpret the kind of the smoke signals that are this current market that we find ourselves in, and understand how those signals become advantages or disadvantages for your specific client. Because if you can go to your client or to your prospect, if you've got somebody who's on the fence about whether or not they're going to buy or sell, if you come to them and say, listen, this is what I'm reading in our market as to what's going on. Here's how it applies directly to your decision. I mean, this is kind of a no-brainer for me. Like, if somebody comes to me and says, like, this is the best time, this is the best chance that you're going to have in the last 10 years, right now is the best chance that you have to get the deal that you want on the house of your dreams that will set you up for the life that's going to, creating the life that you want. Of course, I'm going to sit up and listen to that. But if you don't position yourself as somebody who has, one, a handle on exactly what's happening, two, who has the courage to be able to say, look, I know, CNBC and ChatGPT are going to tell you this is a seller's market, but this is actually a masked buyer's market, and here's why. And three, I know that these are your goals. These are the things that are important to you. Here's how those goals get met in this current market. Somebody comes to me with that. I mean, I am more than intrigued. I'm ready to start looking because that person is doing exactly what I need them to do for me.
Yeah, I bought a car a year and a half ago, and I bought a brand new car, and I bought it in my company bought it. And so it was even though I have my credit is great, it was at a time when interest rates were higher. And so as a result, I have this high interest rate on this brand or year and a half old car. And I love my car. And my intention was to drive it for the next 10 years or more and drive it until, I've gotten my value out of it. I have no intention of trading it in or, making any sort of switch. However, rates had come down recently, and I, in the process, said, "Oh, maybe I can refinance it." Well, it turns out it's a little bit more challenging to do that when it's in a company's name, as opposed to an individual. So I'm sort of in this position where I reached out to a few different lenders and said, "Hey, can we refinance?" And they're like, "Oh, it's a little tricky," and so it's kind of at a roadblock. So it's like, okay, this is just where I'm at now. If the person who sold me the car, who knows this is my situation, knows all of this information, if came to me and said, I have a solution for you. And maybe it's not even an ideal solution, but maybe it's, hey, I can get you a brand new car a year and a half later, and you're going to have a lower interest rate, and it's only going to cost you X amount, and we're going to get rid of the old one, and it's still worth X. I don't even care if I do it or not. I would be so impressed that somebody came to me with some idea that was in my interest or possibly in my interest, that I would be like, oh, I'm never going to another car dealer because this person's thinking about me. So, and again, maybe it's a pipe dream. I don't think, and this is throwing no shade at my person who sold me my car. They're wonderful, but these are the kind of things that separate good agents from great agents. And if you are just saying, hey, I've got this thought, and maybe it doesn't apply to you, but I'd like you to just at least consider it, or at least hear what's going on. At the very least, they're like, wow, my agent really is on top of things. So again, whether this results in activity for your clients, they're going to be impressed with your activity and probably share that information with other friends and family whose
Totally.
agents are probably thinking, oh, they just bought a home 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Why would they consider moving? And
Yeah.
of course, we know that follow-up is the fortunes in the follow-up. So we want to stay in touch, and we always want to know what our clients are doing, but we know that that's, if we're not providing this information, people are going to seek it out on their own, and they're going to get some good, some bad, because they're going to look it up on either ChatGPT or online, and they don't have the professional unless they call you, which great if you're that agent that they call, but you need to make those proactive calls first. So, Chris, this is a great episode to talk about why it possibly is a good time to consider purchasing and sort of how to position that. So I think this is a great place to wrap up. This is definitely an unpopular real estate opinion. However, backed up with some really good, solid logic. So thank you on behalf of the audience for coming really with a banger this month. This was a good one. And we appreciate Chris every month for his opinions. And even though they are unpopular, they are often accurate. So I want everybody to follow Chris. You can find him on LinkedIn. You can find him on Instagram. You can find him on his website, chrislinsell.com. He's super easy to locate. You want to follow this guy because he's thinking about the real estate industry. He's thinking forward, and he's got opinions and ideas. He's often asked to speak on these ideas and opinions at conferences, which you should go visit him speaking at those endeavors as well. And also consider having him speak at some of your own conferences. So definitely, on behalf of the audience, thanks, Chris. On behalf of Chris and myself, thank you to the audience for listening. Send this out to other agents in your office, other agents that are maybe seeing a slowdown in activity on the buy side, or on the sell side rather. This is a great opportunity to help and energize agents, give them a reason to pick up the phone and connect with those clients yet again. So we will see everybody on the next episode. Thank you to our sponsors. Please remember to share this and also leave us a review. Let us know what you think of the show. We appreciate that as well. Chris, thank you. We will see everybody on the next episode.
Thanks, DJ. Talk to you soon.